Hello everyone! Today I'm gonna review these two controllers sent by Flydigi, the Vader 2 Pro and the Apex 2. The Vader 2 Pro is the best cost-benefit gamepad, while the Apex 2 is the premium experience. If you want to see the Apex 2, click on the link on the top right corner. So let's begin with the unboxing. This review is gonna be quite long, but stick with me and you'll know why this controller is the best cost-benefit gamepad for mobile gaming. You can also feel free to navigate through the video using the timestamps below. Inside the box, you won't get any manuals for the controller. Instead, you'll have this QR code that you can scan and see the manual online. I'll try to get it a little closer to the camera so you can scan it from your monitor. And don't worry, because when you scan the QR code here, the manual will open up in the English version. In the box, the Vader 2 Pro comes very well packaged. And inside you have a dongle. This dongle will be used to get a 2.4 GHz connection. With this type of connection, you get almost no input lag, which is much better than playing over Bluetooth. And here's the Vader 2 Pro. The grip feels a lot like an Xbox controller. You have a switch in the back which is used to turn it on and off. The top buttons are clicky, and the triggers are analog triggers. And the connection type is USB Type-C, which is a good point. These holes in the top of the controller are used to attach a clip, which is sold by Flydigi separately. You can even change the position to adjust the balance of your smartphone. The spring is very firm and it will hold your phone with no problem. The hinges are pretty tight and it won't wobble or drop your smartphone. Even if you shake it really hard. The analog sticks are removable and they're also very firmly attached to the controller. It won't drop down even if you hold the controller by the analog stick. They are removable because you can buy sticks from different heights and mix and match them together. For example, with a taller analog stick on the right, you can get better precision at shooting games. These plus and minus buttons here are used as shortcuts. If you're using the Vader on the Switch, the plus and minus button will be mapped to the start and select button respectively. On the back you have a sticker with button combinations to change between the different connection types. The Dpad has clicky switches instead of rubber membranes, and it won't fall down in the middle. It also has a concave shape, allowing you to rest your thumb in the middle. Oh, and one thing I forgot to show. Do you see this metal ring on the analog stick? It is a bit loose and can rotate freely. This is made to ensure that you'll have a smooth 360 motion with the stick, and it will also protect it from wearing out. Testing the D-pad, the diagonals are easily accessible. You won't accidentally trigger them, but you can input the diagonals by rocking your finger on one direction. They are clicky and responsive like Xbox D-pads. Sadly, the analog sticks snap in the X and Y axis. It has motion controls and it works very well. The C and Z buttons are mapped to the L3 and R3 presses, and the back buttons are mapped to the directions in the D-pad. The triggers have a quick activation when used on the switch, and it also has the wake up function. When connected on the PC through the cable, it will act as a Dinput device, meaning that the shortcut buttons are buttons of its own, and you can map any functionality you want depending on the game you're playing. But by downloading the Flydigi PC Space App, you can change it over the PC mode, and this will change the input mode to Xinput. The controller will be seen as an Xbox controller, and the shortcut buttons will only act as a shortcut to any other Xbox key. On the PC app, you can configure 4 different presets with different combinations for the shortcuts and the main buttons. You can change the rumble intensity and change the different lighting effects. Alert is constantly on. Hunt mode will light up only when you press buttons. Float is your default rainbow effect. It will change through all the colors. And hide will breathe between 2 different colors of your choice. In the key tab, you can easily remap and configure any key you want, including the shortcuts. On the joystick tab, you can change the sensitivity of each analog stick. And in the Sensing tab, you can map the gyro controls to control one of the analog sticks. In the default mode, the cursor will always return to the center, meaning that it's a mode for shooting games. If you select Permanent Out, the stick won't return to the center. This mode is used for flight controls. You can also set a button to activate the gyro sensing, meaning that you can activate gyro when you're holding the aim button, and it will deactivate when you release the button. You can also activate it as a toggle function too. On your smartphone, you can use the Flydigi Game Center app. When installed, all you have to do is select your gamepad in the list and connect to it. The app will need some permissions, but nothing too invasive here. All of the permissions are to ensure that the app will store your controller configuration, and also allow the app to show an overlay over the game you're playing. On the app, you can change through the different color layouts and test the controller. You can also read the manual through the app and update your controller. And now here's where the Vader 2 shows its most interesting feature. It has 2 modes of operation on the smartphone: Flash Play and Classic Mode. Classic Mode is like any other controller that you can connect to your smartphone. But on Flash Play mode, it will simulate touches on the screen by using the inputs on the analog stick and buttons. And I know what you're thinking. There is already an app capable of doing this, the Octopus app. However, the Octopus app has many invasive permissions and many of its features are locked in the premium version. And seriously, the Octopus app doesn't have as many customization options as the Flydigi app. You'll see that just ahead. And here's what this controller is capable to do. I can play Genshin Impact like a console game. All of the buttons works very well, and I even have motion controls for aiming. I can change my characters. And check this out, I can zoom in and zoom out. And I can navigate the map using an air mouse. The Flydigi app reads the gyroscope of the controller to point the mouse. And here's how you achieve this result. By pressing select on the controller, you will bring up a panel with all of the buttons that you can enable and position on the screen. And here you can see the controller is mimicking touches on the screen. For the left stick, you can calibrate the radius, and the delayed response of the stick.
It's nearly time for afternoon tea.
You can also enable return radius, which will add a dead zone, and that doesn't allow the controller to fully return to the center. You can enable a button, and when you're moving the stick and press it, it will double click on the screen. You can enable a button to switch the radius of the stick, and this will allow you to do more delicate movements while holding the button down. So if I'm holding the L button, I can easily walk through narrow spaces. And when I release the button, it comes back to full speed. The perspective mode enables a constant touch on the screen. This is perfect to changing the camera angle, especially when playing shooting games.
Yesterday as well.
Could it be true? What I've heard.
There is a nice advantage when using this. When you are playing with touch controls, you have to keep dragging on the screen, like this. But here, as long as you hold the analog stick on the desired direction, the camera will keep rotating.
Could it be true? What I've heard.
The button mode basically turns the analog stick into a D-pad. When you move it around, it will enable 4 directions. And the fixed mode is similar to the first mode, but differently from the first mode, the dead zone here is in the center. Now let's see what the button inputs can do. As expected, the buttons will register a touch on the screen in the place you've positioned them.
There'll be plenty of time for work later.
Could it be true? What I've heard.
But here you have options for continuous touch, which is basically a turbo function.
The healthiest drink is tea.
Hit!
Wine is a healthy drink.
The instant option will press the button only once, even if you hold the button down. And by release is similar to instant, but it only activates when you release the button.
Wine is a healthy drink.
Now let's check the first-person shooter settings. Sensing view registers a continuous touch on the screen, like the analog sticks, but in this mode it is linked to the gyro controls. You can also control it with the right stick.
It's nearly time for afternoon tea.
You can also enable a toggle function too.
Is a healthy drink.
The sensing shoot is different from the normal sensing view. When you release the button, it will always return to the center where you positioned the button initially. As the name suggests, it should be mapped to the shoot button, so you can keep firing and aim your camera freely. If you keep pressing the button in sensing view, for example, the touch position won't recenter and you won't be pressing the shooting button. Auxiliary shoot is a mode to disable the recoil of some guns in shooting games. Notice that when I keep pressing the button, the touch position will go down little by little. And this is made to counter the recoil movement when you are firing constant shots. The drive on and off is similar to the instant feature. It seems to be implemented to avoid bugs in some games. The MOBA function is perfect to play in games where you have to aim and shoot skills. It is paired to the left stick, so when you press the button, it will aim in the same direction.
It's nearly time for afternoon tea.
Wine is a healthy drink.
You can also set it to the right stick and aim independently from the left stick.
Could it be true? What I've heard.
And the smart linkage allows you to use both the left and right stick simultaneously. But notice that the right stick will always prevail over the left stick, so if you start to using the right stick, the left stick will be disabled.
The healthiest drink is tea.
Today's no good for going out. Did I say that yesterday as well?
The cancel skill function allows you to move your touch to a cancel position. Usually when you are aiming, there is a cancel button and you need to move it there to cancel your shot. So this function simulates that movement.
The healthiest drink is tea.
Wine is a healthy drink.
The view map function will simulate a touch and drag.
Wine is a healthy drink.
The attack button is as similar as a click function. Perhaps it works as a way to avoid conflict with other mobile functions.
Official, and the Prinzessin differ.
And the swipe button will simulate a swipe, simple as that. The fly mouse function will enable an air mouse controlled by the gyroscope, and you can click with the right trigger. You can set it to activate on toggle or hold, and you can control it with the right stick also.
I created another universe and founded paradise. For I, official, and the Prinzessin differ. Guess where you're from.
Straight on in.
The macro function allows you to configure a particular set of swipes or motions on the screen, and it will always repeat when you press the button.
Guess where you're from.
You can set it to work on release,
Why not keep me company for a while? There'll be plenty of time for work later.
and by using press repeat, it will repeat as long as you're holding the button down.
Guess where you're from.
You can also set a cancel key to cancel the macro at any time.
Guess where you're from.
It's nearly time for afternoon tea.
And besides having all of the shortcuts available, you can even set button combinations.
Straight on in.
Guess where you're from. Guess where you're from.
So for example, if I'm holding the left trigger, the A and the right trigger will activate two different regions on the screen.
Today's no good for going out. Did I say
And here is my setup that I configured myself. It took a long time to configure all of the functions, but now I have the ultimate experience for playing Genshin Impact on my smartphone. I have macros to simulate the pinch movement on the screen and zoom in and zoom out. I can move, attack, use the aim button as if I'm playing with Fischl or other archer. I can run by pressing the L3 button or the B button. Both of them will work.
it's nearly
I can
time
change
for
characters
afternoon
using
tea.
the Dpad, and if I hold the right trigger while pressing the Dpad, I can activate their special movements while swapping out. The gameplay experience is amazing. All of the functions works seamlessly. And after some time, I even forgot that I was playing a mobile version of Genshin Impact.
little closer. Hit.
Race you!
And let's finish the review by doing a teardown and taking a look at the internal components. The Vader 2 is very well sealed, and it took me a while to do it. I even cut myself while I was at it. So after removing the 3 front buttons, you can pry open the shell and take a peek inside. The battery is a 650 mAh battery, and it's very easy to replace. The plugs in the rumble motors are also very easy to remove and swap out. In the front, the golden contacts for the buttons will ensure that you have a good conductivity when you press any key. And take a look at this, the antennas are extending from the board in the middle of the controller. It's because of this that this controller supports a transmission distance of 10 meters. The analog sticks are from the Alps brand. They are the same in the DualSense and the Pro controller, which is not that great since both of them have recent drift issues, but at least you can easily replace them if they give you any trouble in the future. Here are the switches for the L and R buttons. They are different from the switches in the back buttons. And here's the on and off switch. Here's the mechanism for the ZL and ZR analog triggers. The Dpad switches is in a separate PCB, and it's well protected under a rubber membrane. And the rubber membranes for the face buttons is very solid. I really like the material used here. And the good point is that they maintain the soft button press. The L and R buttons are also nicely protected. And that's it. Overall, I'm very satisfied with the Vader 2. You have just seen how Flydigi has really done a great work with this gamepad. From the integrated app to the build quality, and even the small details like the analog stick metal protection, the antennas in the motherboard, and the overall quality of components. The only flaws that I can point out is that the analog stick sadly snapped in the axis. And there is no way to change the back button shortcut outside of the PC app. Perhaps it could be done through the mobile app or through a button combination. I would say that the Vader 2 is the queen of mobile gaming. And that's because the Apex 2 improves on everything in every possible way. Make sure to check the Apex 2 review to see all of the difference between the Apex 2 and the Vader 2. Phew, what a review, huh? I'm trying my best to bring the best reviews of YouTube to this channel. That's why I dig into all of the details of any product that I get. So if you like this video, help me out by sharing it with your friends, subscribing to the channel, leaving a like or a comment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.